Welcome to week 3 of our group series in Galatians, the gospel for everyone. Thanks for jumping back in with us this week. And just a quick reminder, last week we saw how living out the gospel actually matters practically. It saw how even leaders can act in ways that risk undermining grace and that message of grace in the gospel. And so this week we're digging into another fun topic of Jewish law.
Sure.
So that may get you excited. Maybe not.
Yeah.
We're excited to talk about it.
Yeah.
And why really it was never meant to save us.
Yep.
It was meant to point to our need for
Yeah.
Jesus who saved us.
Yep.
So that's where we're going to go. But before we dig into scripture or anything else, Jesse, seems like there's a few concepts that would be great for you to get in front of us, for us to start to understand or wrap our minds around before we go any further. You mind diving in?
Yeah, because we're not really just talking about Jewish law specifically. Here's really, because Jewish law starts to represent something that going to feel more relevant to us, and that is this: what is the point of trying to do what's right in our relationship with God?
Big question.
When he talks about the law, that's what he's talking about: trying to do what is right.
Yeah.
Okay. And so there's three ways, I think, that messages even that we hear even today of what does God think about us when it comes to doing what's right or doing what's wrong. 3 approaches. One is more a legalistic approach. Legalism is a term here. Legalism says, hey, you better do what's right in order to get into a relationship with God.
In order to be in, or to step over the faith line, we would say, I've got to do X, Y, Z.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's one thing. You know, a lot of, when we think about like traditional religious people, we probably think of them in terms of legalists.
Yeah.
You know? These people are trying to check all the right boxes for God. The way opposite end of the spectrum, let's just call it license. And that sounds like this. God understands. You know, just do your best.
Yeah.
But there's as long as you don't do the big ones, he's fine with it.
Who can say?
And it's license because it just kind of gives you license to live however you want, because you just feel like God's not going to punish you for it, because that's not who God is, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
Both of those are extremes. They're pretty easy, especially for those of us who stepped across the line, who are familiar with faith and grace, and we're trying to follow Jesus. Like we can kind of reject both of those, legalism and license.
Right. Yeah. They ping our radar. Yeah.
What Paul's going to start talking about here at the end of 2 and most of 3 is not legalism per se, and it's not really license per se. It's this messy middle called nomism. And nomism says this: you know what? You can't get in by cleaning yourself up. We're not legalists. And you know what? Sin still matters. We're not licensed.
Yeah.
It's just all about Jesus.
Okay, so great starting points.
Great starting points.
All right.
But once you're in, your status with God can go up and down based on what you do or don't do. That's nomism.
Yeah.
And that's where Paul's going to start attacking here.
Yeah, so instead of saying this is what you have to do to get in, we're saying this is what you have to do to stay in.
Yes.
Right? Like, if you want to stay good with God, if you want to stay in the family, you make sure that you're staying in step or staying in life.
Exactly right.
Yeah, that's a great setup.
Yeah.
And nomism is probably the real sneaky one.
It is.
Right? Like that can kind of invade all of us in one way or another. Even if you say that, I can think of the ways where I go, oh yeah, based on whatever I'm believing about God, I could have something where I'm like, oh, there's that thing again that rears its head in my life.
Yes.
And my first thing I'm going to is like, I just got to do better about that.
Yeah.
Or I white knuckle that, or I'm like, oh man. If I don't go to God with any of that, that's probably my warning sign.
A great way to detect whether or not you have a little nomism in your gospel is exactly how you described. It's what's your first reaction? What's your instinct when you discover that you're in sin?
Yeah.
Do you kind of spiral into shame? Do you spiral into working harder to do better?
Yeah.
Or do you immediately go to Jesus? And what you believe about the gospel determines which of those reactions you have.
And already I'm going, oh no. It's like, oh, okay, great. Real talk. Okay. Well, keep digging into that. So where we want to go together.
Yeah. I mean, so we start to see at the end of chapter 2, verse 19, Paul's gonna try to help us right size, or maybe place correctly, let's say, our own effort to do what's right.
Yes.
Okay. So it still fits, but he wants to make sure it fits in the right place when it comes to our gospel. So in verse 19, he's going to say this: "For through the law I died to the law,
Yeah.
so that I might live for God."
And for me, I read that and I go, okay, you almost talk in a circle there. It's like, for law, dialogue. Okay, what are we really saying there?
Yes, yeah. So just imagine this as a bookend. So 2:19 is the front cover.
Yep.
The end of chapter 3 is going to be the back cover, and then the middle of chapter 3 he's going to explain it.
Okay.
Okay? So the front cover: "Through the law I died to the law so that I might live for God." Through the law, through trying to do what's right.
Okay.
I died to the law. I realized I couldn't do what's right.
There you go.
So he is saying part of what the law does for us isn't just tell us what's right and wrong. It also tells us you can't do what's right. So what is then the purpose of law? Well, you go back to the last part of chapter 3.
Yeah.
If we get into verse 23, chapter 3, it says, "Before the coming of this faith, we were held in custody under the law, locked up until the faith that was come would be revealed." So the law was our guardian. We're going to talk about that a little bit. "Until Christ came, that we might be justified by faith. Now that faith has come, we're no longer a guardian." So now he's going to contrast trying hard to do what's right. He's going to contrast that with faith. And he's going to say the law, it acts as a guardian. That's in the Greek, it's like pedagogue. And these are people that kind of were like in-home care to help kids grow up. They would take them to school.
Yeah.
They would kind of teach them what's right and wrong. They're kind of like the in-home babysitting almost.
Yeah, not an unfamiliar concept
No.
for us. We can wrap our heads around that.
No, and there's value to that,
Yep.
right? But eventually, I mean, if you and I still have babysitters, we're not doing something right.
This is the part where I share or confess that I've got.
Yeah. And so in the middle now of chapter 3, he's going to start explaining what role does the law have in the life of the believer, of someone who is following Jesus.
Yeah.
And he's going to start contrasting this, starting like in chapter 3, verse 3. He goes, "Are you so foolish? After beginning by means of the Spirit, are you now trying to finish by means of the flesh?"
Yeah.
Even in verse 10, he's going to say, "For all who rely on the works of the law are under a curse, as it is written. Cursed is everyone who does not continue to do everything written in the book of the law." James will say some of the same things. James is going to say, James 2:10, "For whoever keeps the whole law and yet stumbles at just one point is guilty of breaking all of it. For he who said, 'You shall not commit adultery,' also said, 'Don't murder.' If you commit adultery, but you do commit murder, what have you become? You become a lawbreaker."
Yeah.
Think of it this way, real quick.
Yeah.
Okay. And don't forget your thought.
Great.
Okay.
Cool.
Imagine you got to go to court for a speeding ticket. Okay?
Not hard to imagine.
That's right.
for
And
me.
you're pleading not guilty, right?
Okay.
And let's say your defense is, "I pay my taxes."
Oh.
And the judge is going to go,
I don't feel real confident about that.
"Great, you're a lawbreaker," because what we're talking about is you speeding,
Yeah.
and you're still on the wrong side of this.
Yeah.
So you can try real hard to pay your taxes. That's great. You still sped. And the same is true. Like, we're in a deficit with God. Just because we did something else right doesn't mean we're free from this curse of not being able to keep the law, which is the standard.
Yes. Yeah. So the law, you're saying, really, it's not designed to rescue us in any sort of way. It's saying like, hey, you need to be rescued.
That's
It
right.
should make that really, really.
That's a great way of
clear
saying it,
for
Chris.
us.
The law is not designed to rescue us. It's designed to help us see that we need to be rescued.
That's really, really good. And so, as we're looking at all this, I mean, the trap for us is going to be saying like, I just got to try better. I got to do better. You know,
Yes.
like if we're falling into nomism, going like, I just got to, pull myself up by my bootstraps and,
Yep.
like be better for God.
Yes.
Right. It says the antidote to all this is faith.
Yes.
Right? Like faith is what's the difference
Yep.
here. Like this is the other path for you.
Yes.
And faith could mean all sorts of
Yep.
things when we say that word.
Right.
So when Paul's talking about that here, what kind of faith is he talking about?
Yeah. Well, we are eventually going to get to where our efforts fit. I think Paul continues to like help us see where our efforts don't fit. So if you're feeling the tension right now, like, hey, when are we going to talk about where I need? Okay, we're going to get there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But he is right now contrasting our efforts with what you're talking about, which is faith. And the way he does it is he talks about the role of faith in our story as the people of God historically.
So we're going back.
We're going way back, right? And so, our story with God doesn't start with the law.
Oh.
Yeah. He's going to say, hey, 430 years before the law was given, God made this promise to a guy named Abraham.
Yeah.
And so for 4.5 centuries, the people of God existed in relationship with God, not because they worked hard to do what was right, because that wasn't even articulated yet.
Yeah. So before we all get caught up in this system of do's and don'ts, we had this time where
The
it wasn't even
question
on the board.
for Abraham and all of his descendants, which were the people of God, the question was this: do you believe that I will fulfill my promise to you?
Yeah.
And Paul's saying that's the foundation of our faith. He's going to say the law did not displace that promise. He's going to say Jesus fulfilled that promise. And he's going to say the Spirit now enables us to kind of live in that promise.
Yeah.
And it always has, and always present, and always will be that question: do you take me at my word? Or do you in any way think that this depends on you?
Yes.
That's what faith is.
Thank you. And that harder than we think, right?
Oh.
You go like, okay, so the real work of following Jesus is working on my belief.
John 5, Jesus has asked this question: what do I have to do in order to do the works that God requires? And Jesus says the work of God is this, is to believe in the one he sent. Think about that. Jesus' prescription is to work harder, not to do better. It's work harder to believe better.
Yeah. And I think that is such the sticking point.
It has implications for how we live. It has implications for right and wrong. That we're not displacing sin, right?
Yep.
But we're putting it in its proper place in terms of our relationship with God.
That's so good. And I think as I have conversations with people in my life, or my friends, myself, my own life with God, I am constantly fighting my default position because of my sin is just like, oh, I got to try to,
a legalistic gospel makes a lot more sense. A licensed gospel makes a lot more, and that's the gospel of our age. God doesn't really care. A nomistic gospel, it all makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, way clearer in my head than how good grace
it's just
actually
not
is.
how it works. It's just not true.
And we'll be reminded of it. I need to be reminded of it every day.
And that's what the law does for us. It reminds us that you can try. It's not going to work for you.
Yeah, it's great. So there's Galatians 3. We're going to throw you into some discussion in your groups. So that's going to pop on the screen for you here in just a moment. So get ready to pause your video and enjoy the time together.
I want to close our time together this week by drawing your attention to chapter 3, verse 21. Okay. And so this is almost a summary of what we've been talking about really so far this week. Paul says, is the law therefore opposed to the promises of God? Is trying to do what's right opposed to faith? No. But he's going to say this: absolutely not, for if a law had been given that could impart life, then righteousness would have certainly come by the law. So it's not as though trying hard to do what's right is opposed to a life of faith, but it's not going to impart life. It's not going to impart righteousness, right standing with God. It's not going to do that. So if we're trying harder to experience life as it should be, if we're trying to experience life as it should be by trying harder, if we're trying to get into a right standing with God by trying harder, Paul's saying, no.
You're just not going to find what you're looking for.
It's not going to work. And then he finishes this: but Scripture's locked up everything under the control of sin, so that what was promised, being given through faith in Jesus Christ, might be given to those who try hard to do better. No. Might be given to those who believe. Try harder to believe.
Yeah. Perfect message to walk away with. So that is week 3, chapter 3 in Galatians. Congratulations. You're officially halfway through.
Right.
And the fun doesn't end here. We're going to keep driving forward into chapter 4.
We're having fun? Is that what we're doing?
I don't know. Maybe
okay,
this time
good.
you tell me we're
yeah,
not.
You keep
I
saying
am,
that.
so
Speak it
I
into
hope
existence.
That's right. I'll just keep saying it over and over. So we want to invite you back for next week. It's going to be really, really good. We're going to keep moving towards some practical implications. What does this mean for me? Where do we go from here? You won't want to miss it. So we're looking forward to seeing you back next week.